Hello, Jade, and welcome to the podcast.
Hello, Chelsea Berman. Thanks for having me.
We've had some technical difficulties, but we're good now, hopefully. We'll see.
Oh, let's get this show on the road, I say.
Can't wait to hear you talk. Obviously, you say you have the gift of the gab. Is that what you call it? Say?
I said the gift of the yap. I think that yapping is my main specialized skill above singing. At gigs you can't stop me. I'll be on a set break. I'm like, oops, I've just spoken too long. Better go back and actually do my job. So I was just waiting for an invite on a podcast, and so excited that you have decided to jump on the bandwagon and get us crazy kids on for a chat.
Yes, I also love yapping. So that's what I kind of created this podcast to do and talk to my friends, like on a platform that everyone else listens to. It's very strange, but it's fun.
I know, it's just getting our personal musician D&Ms out in the open. So I'm ready
Basically.
to be I think you were asking me in the lead up, you were like, is there anything you don't want to talk about? I was like, babe, I can't even stop myself, even if I didn't want to talk about it. I've got foot and mouth disease. So, so it might be a bit juicy. Nah, it'll be fine.
Good. We'll get all the tea.
Yeah.
So, for the people who don't know the wonderful Jade Gibson, can you tell us how you got started in music and your journey till today?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, my parents say that I came out of the womb singing before I was talking. And so I've always loved music. It's been one of those things I've never wanted to do anything else. I was really brought up on Australian pop rock and mostly pop rock music. None of my family are musicians, so I have been the first to take that on as a career. I was begging for singing lessons at 8 years old, was put into lessons. I was busking on the street by the time I was 10 years old in my small town of Wangaratta in northeast Victoria. And then I started doing professional gigs as of around about 12, 13, 14, early years of high school. My dad was just like, drop a radius around where we lived and I would just gig in anywhere that would take me. And then that's when I started falling in love with country music specifically. I think Taylor was really starting to have some big hits with Love Story at the time. My mum always listened to Dixie Chicks, bands like that. So they kind of come into my orbit and I really fell in love with that genre. I think more than anything the songwriting though. Like I said, gift of the app. And so country music is kind of like gift of the app in song. And so I fell into country music probably around 15, 16 years old. Started wearing country boots around town, started getting bullied for it. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to get out of here and I'm going to chase this dream. I started playing B&S balls when I was 18, and that really further cemented my career trajectory in that country realm. And then when I was 19, moved over to Nashville, Tennessee for a year and a half and produced my debut EP from there. And the rest is history, I would say.
Yeah, you've had a very colorful career. I feel like I always forget how many lives you've lived.
I feel like I forget how many lives I've lived, but it's been very entertaining. And that's the thing that I always hold on to is if, I get to later in my life and just think, oh my gosh, all that time and money I spent on my career, at least I'll have all these amazing stories and it won't have been, I have so many stories and it's something that I wouldn't have these stories if I didn't, chase so hard for my dream and have such supportive parents who, let me do that.
Yeah, no, that's a really good way to think about it. Speaking of stories, what is it like playing at a B&S ball? I've never even been to one, but I've seen videos and it looks just hectic.
Yeah, I think my first B&S ball, when I started, I was fresh 18. So I used to not only sing on the night stage, but I'd also do a bit of commentating and stuff on what they call a day stage. I remember I was setting up, it's 2:00 in the afternoon, and a man walked over to me to ask, hey, love, when's the music starting? Butt naked. And I was like,
Oh,
okay, there's something weird's going on here because no one's got an issue with this. It's very confronting. They are the best fans, but they're also very hard on you as well. But I would say that without the BNSs, I wouldn't have been able to start my career. had never been to Tamworth. I'm from a regional town in Victoria. Like, I had nothing to do with the country music scene. So when I was taking that leap to releasing music as an independent artist, my BNS followers were like kind of what gave me the confidence to make that leap, because I knew that they would support me no matter what I did. But they are crazy. They are crazy bogans, and they'll tell you that. Like, they're blowing up their faces. It's crazy, like in the exhaust fumes. They're covered in food dye. They're running around, but they truly do love country music, and they've really supported me in my career. Like, I'll be playing a gig in the middle of nowhere in a tiny pub, and it's really rare for a BNS fan not just to be there, just to support me, because they live an hour or so away. So they're gorgeous people, and they love to have a good time.
Good way to sum it up. No,
Yeah.
it looks like it would be a lot of fun. I'm probably too scared to play at one, but I'm sure I'd attend one.
Oh no, Chelsea, you'd be so fine. You'd be so fun. I think that this year I did my 26th BNS ball, which is pretty
Wow.
insane considering I'm from Victoria and I started when I was 18. I'm 26 now. We missed like 3 years during COVID, and I lived in another country for about a year and a half. So done a few. I've seen some things.
I'm sure you have
Yeah.
good stories.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what is it like, I guess, growing up in such a regional area, but also being a musician?
Mhm.
Obviously, you said you played a lot around the local area, but was it then hard, I guess, to get to gigs or to, I guess, grow your fan base in that wider area and other areas?
Yeah, luckily, I think for me is that I don't mind traveling. I do a bunch of traveling. Like this weekend, I'm doing a footy club function. It's 3 hours from my house. Like, if you give me a pub meal and a bed to sleep in, like, I'll go and sing anywhere. But that's been the way that I've had to just go about things. If I wanted to rest on my laurels and, maybe take the easy road, I could just do gigs around my area. I might not get as many, but I certainly wouldn't be getting my music out to new people. So it was just the way that I had to do it. And my dad really instilled that in me from a young age, that if you want to get your music out there, you're just going to have to travel. And obviously, I write a lot about driving in my songs. I've got actually a driving
Makes sense.
ban. I've got a ban on driving songs from here on in. My producer and I were like, okay, not another driving song. I think the last 3 songs I've done have all been like had metaphoric, you know, like metaphors about driving. So no more. But yeah, I don't mind. I don't mind the drive. So I'll go wherever if it lets me sing for some people.
That's good. Yeah, I always see you like driving to so far away places. I'm like, how is she like awake for one?
I mean podcasts. So thank God you started one, Chelsea. Just add it to the queue.
You just be listening to yourself now on a
I,
podcast.
I know,
Perfect.
and I rip myself apart when I hear myself on a podcast.
Uh,
I've done a couple, and I'm like, wow, why am I like that? But I think that we're all like that. I think everyone's always like, oh, I hate hearing myself speak. And, you sit there and you think, oh no, like, did I say something that will offend someone? That's been a big thing that I've struggled with in definitely like my young adolescence, is trying to please everyone. I'm getting a lot better with age, but I still got a long way to go. And I think it's especially hard being in a real public facing job like being a musician, because you really especially don't want to rub anyone up the wrong way. But also, if you don't have an opinion, I think you're kind of boring too. So it's a tricky
I
line.
agree.
It's a really tricky line. And you be the same, Chelsea, because you and I are very similar. We're very open, like strong women. We've got our opinions. And it's hard to obviously have an opinion and everyone agree on that. So
Definitely. Yeah. And you can't please everyone at the
no.
end of the day.
No.
But I feel like people like Taylor Swift, like you see, obviously not at the start of her career as much, but as she, has grown up and she's really learned how to use her voice. And I think that's really inspired me, as I'm sure it has you as well, to actually like, stand up for ourselves. And yeah, as you said, have an opinion.
And I think you grow closer to an artist by realizing that they are a real person as well, and that they do have like thoughts and feelings. So I am trying to figure out, what parts of my personality I think, and feel strong enough to put on display and put into my like artist life.
Yeah, that's so true. And once you do realize that, I think it's a lot more freeing. But it is just, I guess, also a part of growing up and getting older. Like you do get more
Yeah.
comfortable with what you think and also like realize what you do think in a way as well.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I feel like my frontal lobe developed last year. I had a bit of a cranky old year. I didn't know who was who and what was what. And definitely on the other side of that and feeling a lot stronger about who I am as a person, and knowing my flaws, but also knowing, what's good about me as well. And it's freeing. It's nice.
Yeah, everyone needs a good quarter life crisis. I feel like
Oh,
you can't
it's
get through life without.
super important to have a 9-month cry, which I think I did last year.
Look, we're musicians, we're sensitive, we're emotional. It happens.
A little too sensitive, some would say.
No, definitely not. Going back to traveling, as we said, you travel a lot for gigs
Mhm.
and you moved to Nashville, which is probably, one of the furthest places you can travel to for music. So tell me about your experience living there, and you were studying there
Yeah.
as well, is that correct? Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Yeah, so when I was trying to figure out how to get to Nashville, I do have a couple of brain cells, so I was putting them together and trying to figure out how I could stay in with in an extended period of time without being able to go for something like the artist visa. I didn't have any music out. I knew I was no hope of getting it. So I figured out that if I went as a student, I was going to be able to get, safe accommodation, and I was going to be able to be there for a year and all these sort of things. So I did that, and I went over and I was studying at Belmont in Nashville. I was doing a Bachelor of Music Business, which is really cool. Like some of my lecturers, like one worked for Big Machine Records, like really close alongside like Taylor Swift. I remember one day we did a project in his class and they just signed Jordan Davis. And he was getting us to do a project about, what's good about him and how can we promote him. And I was like, we're doing your work for Big Machine. I'm pretty damn sure.
Free labor.
I know. It was really cool, though. I loved artist management, things like that. I've always been very interested in the business and performance side of music. I'm not a very technical musician. In fact, I can write a song and my band will be like, what key is it in? I don't know. Don't
Oh my
ask me
God,
things
same.
like that.
I can relate to that one.
I said it's on capo 3 and the first chord is a G.
It's me.
But but I love dancing around on stage, and I love the nitty gritty of the music industry. I mean, I love it and I hate it. But I learned a lot doing that. And it took me probably a good 6 months in Nashville before I kind of found my feet. I hadn't written a song before I moved there. That was obviously like my goal. I started writing, and by the end of the year, I had a collection of songs, and I did an EP while I was over there. I recorded that at RCA Studios on Music Row, which was like crazy. I got sessionals in that have played on some of my favorite records. And it was a really amazing experience. I'd been saving up since I was 14. That was kind of the goal with all my gigs as well. Gave me an extra motivation to get out there and do all that traveling to sing at these bars, was because I was saving towards living in Nashville. I think I blew like 50 grand in the first year. Like, I mean, obviously I didn't have a job. So
Yeah.
I was just like eating and drinking because that's what humans need to do, but also, having a good time and exploring. And I did a full EP, all the bells and whistles, and came home broke, but not broke in the soul. I was so in love with Nashville. I went back for another 3 months in 2019, and then the world shut down. So, but I think Nashville will always have a really big piece of my heart. It really shaped me as a musician. I think before I left for Nashville, I had the pipe dream, and I actually think I was a little bit arrogant too. Like I'd started doing these B&Ss and stuff, and I thought, oh, I'm a bit of a top shot. I got to Nashville and I was pulled right back down a peg, and it really, really made me fight and challenge myself as a musician, because when you get there, you're not the only pretty blonde that sings country songs. Like, everyone else is so amazing and everyone is just fighting for that position. If you don't show up to that right, they won't contact you again. If you don't show up to that round, someone else will get it, and you lose those opportunities like that. So I really had to learn all that the hard way, but it really shaped me as a musician. And I remember when I went back last year, we went together. A lot of my friends that I hadn't seen in years because of the pandemic were like, welcome home. And I was like, I was already having a mental life crisis. So I think that I cried in a few bars. I think I cried a lot, actually. But it's got a massive, massive piece of my heart, that city. Yeah.
And that would have been such an amazing way to like start your music career in Nashville. Obviously, Nashville people do that, but as an Australian, to like, obviously, it was something that was on my bucket list for so long, but it took me so long to get there. So for you to, I guess, start your original kind of music career and, record your first EP there, I imagine that would have been amazing.
Yeah, I feel like I kind of did it a back the front way almost. I hadn't even gone to Tamworth before I went to Nashville. But I've always been like a go big or go home type of person. So I did it. I saved for a long time. It was just the perfect lead up. Like, obviously, when I was in high school, I was able to save because I was living with my parents, and then I had the money, and then off I went. So yeah, I wouldn't do anything any other way. And I'll probably never get to have an experience like that again. I'll never be in uni again alongside my friends. Like, I'll never write my first song in, the music rooms of Belmont again. And all those memories, like, I'll hold so dear, and they well and truly have shaped who I am, like, as an artist today.
Yeah, no, I can imagine would have been incredible and such a big influence on your career.
Yeah.
Obviously, you mentioned money being a struggle, which can relate. As a musician, I think every single musician in the entire world has struggled with money, and funding this job, career, hobby, whatever you want to call it. But what are some other? I mean, we can talk about that as well. But what are some of the struggles that you do find in your career and in the music industry? I know we've ranted to each other before, so I thought we could have a bit of a public rant and discussion about some struggles.
Oh, look, I think my accountant tells me every year, like, girl, what are you doing? Like, your expenses are like 80% of your like income. I'm like, yeah, I know, but it's my dream.
Musician life.
It's my dream. He's like, are you making money? I'm like, look, it's a really, really expensive career. You are definitely, I will say, that if you're a working musician like me, I am gigging every single weekend. I have definitely seen the benefits of producing music. I definitely can charge a bit of an extra rate, but it doesn't outweigh the costs of this. We are just feeding money. And I always joke in the cruelest of ways. I feel like everyone in this industry is making money off the artist except for the artist. Like, we're around here, we're paying our publicists, and we're paying the videographer, and we're paying marketing teams, and we're paying TikTok to, get our music out there. And you can still do everything by the book, right? You can use the best publicist, and you can use the greatest videographer, and you can spend 15 grand on a single, and it can still do nothing. And that's really, really scary. So I think at the end of the day, and maybe part of my crisis last year was this, that I was like, what am I doing? What am I doing? And I just had to tell myself that it isn't all, I mean, obviously we care and we want to put all of our money into our work because we want it to be the best it can be. But it's not, in a way, it's not really about what you're going to get back from it. And obviously I'll try and do this as long as I can. But one day, you have to pull back because you can't be spending 20, 30 grand a year on this career. And that's really, really heartbreaking. I'm going through a stage at the moment where I am trying to downsize my costs, play smarter, not harder, because I've been playing hard for the last 5 years. I've been doing everything to get it going, and it definitely has. But I think, as you get a little older, I want to go to Europe, and that also costs, an arm and a leg, and I want to do an EP, and that'll cost an arm and a leg, and you're like, how do I do it all? But it does suck because sometimes you can get bitter sitting around thinking that everyone else is making money off you and you're not making a cent. So you've got to be in it for the love. I know that's so cliche, but you actually really do.
Yeah, it's cliche.
Oh,
Oh, River's saying
River.
hello. I
Hey,
hear the dog
Riv.
barking. She agrees.
Thanks, girl. She's like, you
But yeah,
tell him.
it's so true. Like, I always think of and see how much money, I'm putting into my music, and literally just have to remind myself I'm doing it for the love of it. But then it's like such a weird situation because you're spending all this money on something you love, but then you're also releasing music for other people to enjoy and
Yes.
like trying to get in the charts and trying to get
Uh-huh.
festival spots, which is all on like other people loving you, not necessarily you loving it. And then obviously that makes you feel shit about yourself when you're not getting those spots and you're not getting,
Yeah.
that success. So it's such a like
It's a bit of a
mind
trap.
fuck.
Yeah, I reckon it's a bit of a trap because I've definitely fallen into that in the last few years, of, wanting to use the best of the best and just trying to chase those chart topping stops. And I do think that there is definitely a benefit in doing that if you can afford it, because I think that some success does lend to you being able to get more creative in the long run because you can get those fans. But obviously, where I'm at is, I released a song earlier this year with the amazing M Squared boys. I love those guys. But I am taking a little bit of a different direction. And I've been taking a bit of time to be recording and doing that sort of thing. And I'm really hoping that, those fans that I've made and I've nurtured through the last few years of releasing songs that are big energy and, bangers, means that I can hopefully do something a little bit more passion projecty in the future, and hopefully maybe even something a little bit more cost effective, because I've done those hard yards. But there's no recipe to success. But I'd say the fact that we gig every weekend and we get paid to sing, like, that is the success. Like, if you told little Jade 10 years ago when I was 15, 16, like dreaming this up in high school, if I told her like what I was doing now, I get to do a couple of festivals every year, and, I've got songs on Spotify that, one of them's got 500,000 streams, she'd be like, oh my God, you actually made it. But it's such a curse because the goalposts are always moving. And that's a really, really hard reality of any creative field, is as soon as you meet your goal, you're like, okay, what's next? What's next? And it's so toxic. But I'm trying to navigate my way around that, and finding peace within like what I'm doing and what I'm producing. And just also knowing that music's a big part of my life and a big part of my identity, but it's not everything either.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like your crisis has really made you know things. You're very wise now. You're
I
giving me a lot of
know.
wisdom.
Oh, thank God. Oh my gosh. Because for real, I turned 25 last year. I got sick. And then I just never got better. I actually do think it was burnout. And I let myself get that way from gigging and not looking after my body, but also just from stressing. Like, and I spent a good 9 months just being like, what the hell am I doing? I'm just sinking money into this. I don't know whether I'm Arthur or Martha half the time, because you see someone doing something and you're like, oh, maybe I should do something like that. And then you hear, one artist doing this and one artist doing that. And you're like, oh my God, I had to actually shut off a fair bit from social media last year because I was just falling into comparison culture, and it's not fair. Especially because I know well and truly, and like, I hope this doesn't come off arrogant, but there'd be someone who's looking up to me. And we all just do
So
it to each other. And we all just like, we all just drive ourselves crazy. And I was just sick of doing that. And to be honest, I thought, maybe if it's this toxic, maybe I don't do it anymore. And that was a really terrible thing to even consider. I'm so grateful that I come out on the other side, actually, in a way, more motivated than ever to get back into writing and to explore what I'm enjoying with music. I've been listening to honestly, I haven't been listening to much country. And I think that's really coming through in my new music and my new writing. I'm kind of going back to my roots a lot, which was like folk and rock and pop and things like that. And I think you'll feel that in the new music. But feeling a lot better on the other side of my quarter life crisis. Thank God.
That's good. So glad to hear.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think everyone like goes through that where you're just like, why am I actually doing this? And it's so hard to see your own success. And I think other people, like non-musicians, have put a lot in perspective for me. Like I know my friends have seen, or even people that I've just met have been like, oh, your song's on Spotify. Like that's a cool thing for them to just have songs on
Yeah.
Spotify. And then they go on and they see you have streams and this bio and you've been on whatever you've
I
been on, you've been
know.
on the radio, and people just think it's amazing. And obviously it's such a normal thing for us
Yeah.
now, or even you're like, oh, it's just like
I know.
that radio station, or it's just
Yeah.
that playlist, and it's like it's actually great, but it's so hard to see that
Yeah,
as
I feel
yourself.
like we always just push it down too. I don't know. I think that also comes with being a female, like honestly, as well. We're always just like, oh no, there's a big tall poppy syndrome here in Australia. And I suffered with that a lot growing up, especially in a small town. And I've really taught myself to be humble, like so humble. And I'm always so scared of coming off arrogant. But also, we've worked really hard for this career, and we should also celebrate our wins. It's a really tricky line to balance that one.
Yeah, no, I can relate to that so much. And yeah, I definitely go the other way of like complete no confidence, because I'm like, I don't want to seem too confident or like,
It
too
sucks.
cocky.
Like that just sucks.
Bullshit.
I know it sucks. Honestly, yeah, don't start me swearing because then you won't stop.
It's okay. We can put a little
beep it out.
The little E. No bleeping out on this podcast. Please don't listen to this in front of your children.
Yeah.
You mentioned new music and kind of exploring different genres, which I'm so excited to hear your new music. But I know we kind of got into this conversation before we started recording about genres, because it's such a thing to define ourselves into a specific genre. Like obviously our main genre that we've both done is country, but as you said, you've really stopped listening, or might have started again now, listening to a lot of country, and you are getting all these other influences, which is, I'm completely the same. I've been listening to so much pop, and that's really started influencing my music. I guess, what is your perspective on the genre debate? Do you think people have to be a specific genre? Do you think we should just stop genres altogether? Because I'm so for that.
I'm so sick of genres. I wish it was by mood, because that just seems a little bit more, I don't know, that just seems just more of a no-brainer to me. I think that, especially because I didn't grow up on country music, when I decided that I was going to start making music, it was obviously to the country-esque side of it, but I had to really steer myself into the country box, because you've really experienced this too, Chels, but people will tell you, oh, it's too country to be pop. Oh, it's too pop to be country. And if you want to get played on country radio, it needs to be country. Like, you can't dabble around. And that sucks that it's that black and white, because good music should just be good music. And I will say that I feel like things have come a long way. When I was listening to country music when I was a kid, I really fell in love with American country. And I think that's another reason why I decided to do Nashville over something like Tamworth, because I was listening to Rascal Flatts and Keith Urban and Kelsey Ballerini and Miranda Lambert. And even that genre of country in Australia still wasn't super embraced. Now it is, well and truly. I mean, Morgan Radio plays on mainstream radio, but it wasn't back then. And I think I went to Nashville because I was like, you know what? I really like this style of country. But then when I come back, it wasn't really catching on. And luckily for me, it has caught on. So my last few years of releases have been a bit more successful. But I didn't grow up on country music. Like, my favorite band's Fleetwood Mac, like Powderfinger. I've been listening to a lot of like Maggie Rogers. I've been listening to Noel Khan, also like Casey Musgraves. And I just love a bit more of a moodier genre. And I think that's what I'll be going into. It's so scary. Like, I'm so scared. I've been talking to one of my best friends who I trust with my whole heart when it comes to genre. She's not a musician, which I kind of like even more. She's got that back inside. She's like, oh, should you be releasing, a cover so that you can like lead your audience into your like change? I'm like, oh, but I mean, Taylor does it. She's like, Jade, you're not Taylor Swift. You can't jump around genres like that. But
No, I love the Taylor does it.
I
I'll say that for anything.
but like it just shouldn't be black and white that way. We should be making music, especially if we're independent artists, which we are. It's our money. So why shouldn't we be creating projects that we love, not just trying to get a spot on the radio? It's really, really frustrating. I will say I feel like there is a bit of a change in the tides. Even with like, A-list celebrities, they're all crossing over. You see Noah Kahan's doing things with Kelsey Ballerini, and then he's also doing collabs with like the Lumineers and James Bay, Sam Fender. He's crossing folk and rock and country and pop all together, and that's so cool. Like Post Malone, doing things with Morgan Wallen and Luke Combs and Lainey Wilson. It's definitely getting that way. I'll be interested if genres kind of do get scrapped within the next 10 years. That'd be really exciting. I'd love everything just to be by mood. And Spotify is encouraging that. I feel, like they've got the country chill playlist, or you go in and it's like, what are they? Some of the stupid things. It'll be like, sad days, and you're like, great, like that's what I want. I am
having a sad day.
I am having a sad day. Play it for me, and then it'll be like a pop song, and then it'll be like an EDM song, and then it might be a piano ballad, and you're like, that's exactly what I wanted. So exciting to see what happens in that space, because I think people are a bit sick of the genre molds. I know I am, and I'm just a little fish. So imagine how the big fish are feeling. Yeah.
Oh, for sure. And yeah, I think things are changing, and I'm hoping they just keep changing. Because, if you think of the average person, like there's not many people that will just listen to one specific genre and like never listen to anything else. Like people do listen to different things. So why can't we also release different things?
Yeah, 100%. If I'm going to be your favorite artist, like I want to have a bit of everything for you, like a well-rounded meal. I'm veggies and I'm potato and I'm a schnitzel. Like, we'll see. Anyway.
I like that analogy. Well-rounded meal.
That was
Jade
so
Gibson.
bad.
You're hilarious.
She's a great pub meal.
Oh God. Okay. Well, on that note, relationships.
That's a great segue.
I do. Although this is a music podcast, life, relationships. Yeah. It's such a big part of our lives and our music as well. We do write a lot about our romantic experiences.
Yeah.
And I think I really love your story because you have been in a long-term relationship with a non-musician.
Yeah.
And I guess I'd love to know how that's been in terms of, dating someone that might not understand, but, is still supportive. And like, I guess how have you navigated being a musician with someone who, I guess doesn't quite 100% understand everything you're going through?
Yeah, my poor darling. We've been together like almost as long as I've been releasing music. So he's well and truly been on the ride with me the whole time. We actually met right before I moved back to America for that 3 months in 2019, which was how I knew that he was my person. I've always been obsessed with boys, like so tragic, very Taylor Swift of me. And I was always, had my little boyfriends. I was in and out of relationships, and I always wanted a relationship. And I think for my first time ever, I wasn't interested in getting into a relationship here in Australia because I was going back to Nashville, and I was like, no, I don't want an Aussie boyfriend. And we started seeing each other, and then I kept on being like, yeah, but it's casual, I'm leaving. And then it got to like a week or two before I was leaving, and we were both just like, oh, I think that this is pretty serious. So, and then like the rest is history. We live in a home together that we own. We've got 4 pets. It's absolute chaos in here. But I remember on our first date, he was like, oh, so what do you do? And I was like, oh, I'm a singer. And he's like, oh, cool. Like, what do you mean you're a singer? I was like, I literally write songs about my ex-boyfriend. Like, so big of him from the beginning. He's always been such a support in that way. He's so chilled out. I'll go away for like weeks on end and just do my like music stuff. He's just like, I'll be here when you come back. Give me the goss. He's super supportive. I love that he's a soundboard for me. Over the 5 years, he's become just as much of a music expert as I am. He didn't even listen to country music before we met, and now like he'll tell me exactly like who got into fresh country every Friday, and he's like, oh, did you see that Lainey Wilson's new song, you know, that one's in there, or you know, I don't think it's as good as the last one, but oh, it's so funny. It makes me laugh. But he's a great soundboard for me because when things get a little bit, you know, crazy, which they do, I kind of say sometimes that being a musician is sometimes like just living in a dreamland. Like, you know, we head off to Nashville and it's not real life. It's like Hannah Montana out here. And so he's a bit of a reality check for me sometimes. And he reminds me that, you know, there's more to life than just my music, but that also what I'm doing is great. And I would honestly, I'd be interested to know where I would be at with my music if it wasn't for him. He's really been able to help me keep stable in this. And you know, I think this year was my 12th or 13th release. It's the first song that's been released about him in 5 years. And so he's been through all that with me, you know, songs about my exes. He's just been like, you know what? That's part of the job. And he's just a blessing. He will hate that I'm talking about him. He will actually be able to hear me right now. And he'll be out there and he'll be like, Arr. He's polar opposite to me. Thank God, because if there was two of me living in a house, the house would be blown up by now. We're definitely a yin and a yang. But it's That's great. Good. I would recommend it to anyone having in a relationship with someone who's not in your field, because it can be wild. I mean, I can see the benefits of it. When I was in Nashville the first year, I dated a couple of musicians and I was like, this is too many emotions, too much ego going on here. That's enough. So thank God I met Tom.
Yes, we love Tom. Yeah. Although I've still never met him, but I just love him anyway. Heard many good things.
Well, you know what? I don't want you to meet him, Chelsea, because everyone he meets, they love him more than me. Jake's like, I love you, but where's Tom? Like, he's great. I was like, oh, okay, cool. That's great. It's awesome. Nah, he's a gem.
Yeah, and I think we do need that just kind of chill, supportive person that will be, there for you, but isn't, I guess, doesn't get too involved in a way. Like, they've got to be involved and supportive, but like, it is your career. You are the musician. They have got to, I guess, recognize that.
Yeah, for sure. And it's great sometimes for me to have him around just to be like sometimes he'll be like, Jade, it's not that deep. Like, what? Why are you getting so upset about this? It's not that deep. And I really need that. Sometimes it's really grounding for me, because I think sometimes you can really lose your feet in this industry and just feel like you don't know who you are or where you sit, and you get really, you know, worried about your craft. And obviously I spoke about it before, that comparison culture. So it's great to have someone who's just supporting you in the background, who understands, like, obviously to an extent now he's been around long enough that, you know, he'd come to the Golden Guitars with me and he's been over to Nashville and he's seen it over there. So he understands just as well. But he's got a different perspective that's really important. That's really important to have, I think, to keep yourself on the straight and narrow.
Yes, which is important for us musicians. Yeah. Otherwise we'd go crazy. I mean, we're going crazy.
I was going to say, I think, but definitely a little bit crazy anyway.
So you spoke about Tamworth. What is next for you, I guess, in the next kind of year or so? You have new music coming out. We have a show coming up. Woo! And what else? What are in your plans? Let us know. Give us an exclusive. We've had a few exclusives on this podcast, so feel free to give us another one.
Okay. Well, I'm just wrapping up. I don't think I've even spoken about a new song on my socials. So this is the goss. There is a new song coming. I'm racing to the finish line with it. Like I said, I've been going through a bit of a transitioning with my genre. all this year. I'm really excited about this song. It's probably the most I've had to do with a song in a long time. So in that way, I'm a bit like, honestly, I'm shit scared to bring it out. But it's a love song. It's moody. It'll be fun. I haven't done something like that in a long time. I've been all sunshine and rainbows for a long time, which I mostly am, but that's not all there is to me. But we've got a bunch of gigs coming up. I mean, we've got our Tamworth show on the 23rd? Yes, it is. Thursday the 23rd of January at Moonshiners. That's actually my first like proper show in Tamworth. So thank you, Chelsea, for bringing me in on that. And I'm really, really fingers and toes crossed this is hot goss, because it could even be a lie if I don't follow through. But I'm really trying to do an EP next year. And I've got a few songs that I want to put on there that are extremely raw. There's one especially that I'm especially nervous to bring out. So we'll be interested to see if I grow a pair and I bring it out.
Yes, I'll come back to this podcast next year and see if you've actually released it.
I know. Oh, well, I'm a child of divorce, and that's all I'll say about that. So it's a song that has a lot to do with that, and it's not something I've touched on because it's still quite raw. And yeah, it's a pretty special song, and I think one day it will get its time in the light. But I'm hoping next year. But we'll see. I've got to really be a big girl before I put it out. But besides that, just continuing on, just gigging wherever every weekend in the pub or at a wedding or at your bar mitzvah. Nah, just kidding. I haven't done a bar mitzvah, but hit me up if you like country. If you like country music and a yapper,
she's ready.
I will play at anything. People think I'm joking. I'm not joking. I will play anywhere. If you pay me, I will play.
Beautiful.
I know.
I can't wait to see what events you get inquiries for now.
I know. So funny. So funny. I'm playing at like a cricket club in a couple of months. Like, why? They're so funny. Cricket club. I'm playing at weddings. I'm playing at 40th. I'm playing wherever. Got to make that money because we ain't making it from music. But we love our job, don't we, Chelsea? We love it.
Yes. I need a thing on my wall. I love my job. I love my job.
I love my job. I love it. It's so good.
Yeah.
Nah.
It is amazing. I mean, we get to do stuff like this. Like, so many people will never be on a podcast in their entire life, and we just get to do this on a day-to-day basis. Yeah. So it's fun.
100%. No, at the end of the day, I would rather sing my lungs out in the corner of a bar than work a 9 to 5, 5 days a week. So, yeah, we are really lucky, and it's a cool thing. We're making art and we're hanging out. Great.
We sure are. That's a beautiful note to end it on. Positive.
On that note.
Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Oh, thanks, Chelsea, legend. I'm really excited to see
you in
January. In Jan. I know, it's too long between drinks.
I know.
Yeah, anyway.
But we'll make up for it.
We will. I'm really excited to see what you've got in store coming up for the rest of the podcast. I'll be listening. Yes. On my country road, I'll be listening. Actually going to listen.
You'll be my number one listener.
Hell yeah. I've already subscribed, so you're welcome.
Thank you. No, I can't wait to get this out. I feel like you've shared a lot of wisdom. I feel like I feel so positive now. You really do bring a positive light to things. So thank you.
Thank you. It's the sunshine and rainbows. No, thanks, Chels. Love ya.
Bye.
Bye.